Hello, players. This is Coach Cody, and these videos are going to go over offense and base running. And this is especially important for people who might be playing in our age division for the first time, because coming from a situation like playing in coach pitch, or if you're playing off of a pitching machine where you have a pitch limit, in this league, you actually don't have a pitch limit. Okay. So we're going to go over a few things about from getting to the plate and what you do at the plate, finding your pitch, finding your strike zone, and base running to first. And then even when you're on bases, what you're going to be doing and things that you should look out for. And just like with the defensive videos, you're going to forget these things, and that's okay. We will tell you over and over and over again. And that's also why these videos exist, so you can watch them as many times as you like. The last thing I'll say before we start, just like with the defensive videos, if you like these, great. Watch them as much as you want. Watch them with if your parents will let you, watch them with them. Ask questions. If you want to ask us questions, ask us questions. Try to stump us. That's great. If watching these videos make you nervous and kind of feels like it's a little too much to try to remember, that's fine. Don't watch them. Stop watching them. We'll be able to talk about them in practices and after games and things like that. Okay. So hope you have fun with these. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to point out is the offensive field alignment. So with the defensive field alignment, I had all of the positions on the field. This one, we're really just looking at trying to simplify it for what we need to know as when we are on offense, as offensive players. So it starts out with home plate. You see the H, and then we have first base, second base, third base, and then the pitcher's mound. A lot of people know these. However, when we get into some of the later issues that we're going to talk about and concepts we're going to talk about, it might help for a little reminder for some of these. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about is getting to the plate. Okay. The main thing to remember, you have time. You have time to get to the plate. You are going to be in the batter's box, either on one side of home plate or the other near the fence. It depends. If you're batting after someone who is a right-handed hitter, you're going to be facing their back. So you'll be on the third base side. If you're batting behind someone who's a left-handed hitter, you are behind their back. So you'll be on the right-hand side. The reason we do that is so if somebody hits a foul ball, a right-handed hitter hits a foul ball, in front of them over toward the first base dugout, there's not somebody standing in that on deck circle. So it's for safety reasons that we do this at this league. And so there you are. You see you as the B. When it's your turn to go to bat, when you're called to go to bat, remember, you have time. You don't have to sprint up into the box. Here are a few things that will help you with that. So when you're told you have time, walk up to the dirt and then stop before you step in the batter's box. Don't step directly into the batter's box, because as soon as you step in the batter's box, the pitcher can actually throw the pitch, okay? So before you get into the batter's box, get your sign from your coach before getting to the box. Now, the way that we play, I'm usually over on the first base side. So you'll be looking directly at me, if you're a right-handed player, to get your sign, okay? I'll give you a sign of what to do with that at bat, or what to do with that pitch. After you get the sign, then step into the batter's box. Because remember, as soon as you're in there, the pitch actually can be thrown. So get the sign and then step into the batter's box. After every pitch, step out of the batter's box, maybe take a practice swing, and be looking at me or your coaches for a sign. We're trying to help you with your at bat. Okay, so after every pitch, step out, take a step out of the batter's box, look for your sign, maybe take a practice swing. Once you get your sign, then step in to the batter's box and be ready to bat. Okay? Now let's talk about getting your pitch. All right? Getting your pitch, very, very important, especially being that this is a more kind of realized game of baseball than situations where you may have a pitch count. Okay, so like in coach pitch, you would have 5 pitches and you had to swing within 5 pitches, right? If you if you didn't swing at your fifth pitch, you were just counted as out, right? Here, pitchers can throw as many pitches as they need to you. Okay, you can hit or look at or swing or put into play as many pitches as you need in order to get a hit. So let's help out with that. Let's talk about what the strike zone is. Okay. You see the strike zone and you see the batter, the silhouette of the batter standing there, and you see that little rectangle over by the batter. You see at the top of the zone, if you draw a line over to the batter, that goes about their elbow, a little bit below their shoulder, okay, or into their underarm. And then the bottom side, the lower side of the strike zone is at the top of the knee. Okay. And it's always a objective strike zone, and it's objective to what the umpires can see and how tall a player is. Now, a strike zone is supposed to be the height of a player when they are standing normally or maybe crouched down a little bit. So if somebody gets down really, really low, they still have a normal strike zone compared to what they should look like if they're standing up, how big that zone should be. And then at the bottom of the picture, you see home plate and you see little dotted lines going up from there. So that is the width of the strike zone. Okay. And then sometimes in our league, the umpires will tell us before the game, look, I'm going to go 1 or 2 balls inside the strike zone or outside the strike zone. Okay. And then that's something as coaches that we can tell you about. So you see the strike zone there. It's the red part of the strike zone. Okay. So let's go through a couple pitches just to see if they're balls or they're strikes. So when these pitches pop up, you say if they're balls or strikes, and then we'll go over them, okay? So this first one, in the middle of the zone, that's a strike, right? This next one, it is outside of the strike zone, so that would be a ball. How about this one? It's inside, closer to the batter, out of the strike zone, so that would be a ball. The fourth one, a little bit higher in the strike zone, but it's in the strike zone, so that's a strike, right? The next pitch, that would be a ball because it's outside of the zone. The next pitch would be low toward the plate. That's outside of the zone, so that would be a ball. And then here's one that's in the strike zone as well. Okay, so now let's try something and let's go through kind of what an at bat looks like. Okay, so here's the first pitch, and that one is in the zone. So that's called a strike. Okay, you don't swing at that one. So it's strike one. And underneath that, you see the count is 0 and 1. It's 0 and 1 because you list the balls first and then the strikes. So there's 0 balls, 1 strike. So that's how you get a count of 0 and 1. The next pitch is inside. So that is ball 1. So now the count's 1 and 1. It's even at 1 and 1. The third pitch, a little bit low. So that's ball 2. So you have a count of 2 and 1. All right. Now you have what we call a hitter's count, because there are 2 balls and 1 strike. The next pitch is in the zone. Let's say you look at it or you swing and miss. It's strike 2. Okay. You have a 2 and 2 count. So if you have another strike that you miss or look at, don't make contact with, then it's a strikeout, right? You have 2 more balls before you would be walked. Okay. So that fourth pitch is outside the strike zone. So that's a ball. Now you have a 3-2 count. So that's a full count. That's what we call a full count. This next pitch, let's see. It's in the middle of the zone and you hit the ball. You make contact. You get a good contact swing on it. So here's the thing. If you hit it and it goes in play, then you run to first base. You run to first base as fast as you can, right? If you hit it and it goes foul, so it does not go in front of you, it goes outside of the baselines or behind you, then it's a foul ball. You take another pitch. All right. Let's look at what that next pitch could possibly be. Well, that one's outside of the zone. So that's ball 4. And you walk. You get on first base. Now, look, in that at bat, you got to see 7 pitches. All right. You made the pitcher throw 7 pitches. And also, you just helped your teammates see 7 pitches because that can help them to know what type of pitches are being thrown, how the pitcher is performing and playing that day as well. So this is something I call a quality at bat or a QAB. That's something we're going to talk about a lot of times. What is a quality at bat or a QAB? And you'll hear me say this time and time again. And again, we'll cover it throughout the season. So if you're confused about it or have questions, let's talk about it. Okay. So then, what is a quality at bat or what is a QAB? Here's some scenarios. Let's say this ball is right down the middle of the plate. Okay. First scenario, you swing at the first pitch and you get a base hit. Well, guess what? That's considered a QAB because you got on base. You saw one pitch. We always want to see more pitches, but you saw one pitch, but you got on base. Okay. Now, another scenario. Let's say you swing at the first pitch, you make contact, but you get out. You hit to first base and they touch the bag, or you get to second and they throw you out. That's not considered a quality at bat. Why? Because you saw one pitch and your teammates saw one pitch and you got out. Okay. If you get a hit, it's different because we don't have an out, which is really good. We have a runner on base. And the more runners on base we have, that's what we want, right? So if you swing at the first pitch and you make contact, but you get out, that's not really considered a quality at bat. Okay. Now, third scenario, if you just watch the pitch go by, you let the first pitch go, well, that means you could be working the count. Okay. Because that means you're going to see a second pitch, at least a second pitch. Your teammates are going to see at least a second pitch. So let's look at what happens with those next pitches. There's one, that would be a ball. The second or the third pitch is a ball. Fourth pitch is a ball. So now you have a 3-1 count. The fourth one is outside. So all of a sudden, the next 4 pitches are balls. You walk. And that I consider a quality at bat because you reached base. Your teammates get to see 5 pitches and you got on base. Okay. Usually what I consider a quality at bat is if you get to see 6 or more pitches, unless you get on base. Okay. So in this instance, you got on base and you saw 5 pitches. So that's quality at bat. If you swing and you get on base, you make contact and you get a hit, that's a quality at bat. Okay. And remember, it's going to happen sometimes that you're going to go up and you might work the count and get to see 5 or 6 pitches, and that's a really, really good at bat. You might go up sometime and swing at the first pitch, or make contact with the first pitch and get out. That's the way baseball works. Okay, I don't want you to be too upset with yourself. What we want to develop and what we want to teach is how to find your pitch and how to get the pitch you want to hit. Okay, so let's go over some other scenarios. All right, here's another scenario with what is a quality at bat. Here's the first pitch, outside. Second pitch is inside. Third pitch is low. However, you just swung at all 3 of those pitches, and all 3 of those pitches were not in the strike zone, so they would have been balls. But you swung at them, you missed them, and you struck out. That's not a quality at bat for a few reasons. One, you swung at pitches that were outside of the zone. So if you didn't swing at those pitches, you would have a 3-0 count, right? You'd be 1 pitch away, 1 ball away from being walked and getting on base. So that's one reason why it's not a quality at bat. It's also not a quality at bat because your teammates only saw 3 pitches. You only saw 3 pitches. Your teammates only saw 3 pitches. Okay. And the more pitches that we are able to see, the better we are prepared for getting a hit or making contact, or when our teammates get up, the better they are prepared for making contact and getting a hit. Okay. Here's another scenario. Let's say first pitch is inside. That's a called strike. Second pitch is inside the zone, called strike. Third pitch is inside the zone, called strike. You look at the first 3 pitches. You don't swing your bat at all. And they are all strikes. They were all within the strike zone and you strike out. That's called a looking strikeout because you didn't swing your bat. We always want to swing at the third strike, right? If we're going to strike out, we want to strike out swinging. We don't really want to strike out looking. Now, it will happen from time to time that you strike out looking, That happens to major leaguers. That happens to all players. Sometimes you think a ball is not going to be a strike and it gets called a strike. That's the way it is. We just live with that. Okay. But if there are pitches that are, all of them are really, really well thrown pitches and could be hit, and we look at them and we don't swing and we strike out, that's not a quality at bat. Again, because we're not on base, so we don't have a runner on base. We have one more out than we did, and we only got to see three pitches. That's the most important thing. We only got to see three pitches. Your teammates only got to see three pitches. All right. So now let's look at this one, and you try to follow along and tell yourself what you think these, is this a quality at bat or not, and what these pitches are. Here's the first pitch, in the zone for a called strike, right? So the count's 0-1. Second pitch is inside, so it's called a ball. So now you have a 1-1 count. Third pitch is in the zone, you foul it off. Okay. So the foul counts as a strike, right? So now your count is 1-2. All right. Here's the fourth pitch. That's also in the zone, but you foul that one off too. So the count's still 1-2 because as long as you're making contact, you can't strike out, right? If you put the ball into play and they get you out, then that's an out. If you pop the ball up and the catcher catches it, or first base, third base catches it in foul territory, or an outfielder catches it in foul territory, that's an out. But if you just foul it off and it lands on the ground, that's a foul ball. It doesn't count against you as a strike. Okay, so let's look at what the fifth pitch is. The fifth pitch is also in the strike zone, but you fouled that one off too. So you are back at a 1-2 count. And already you've seen five pitches. So the sixth pitch thrown, that one's low. That one's called a ball. So now you have a 2-2 count. All right. And you're going to see seven pitches. This is really, really good. I'm going to be calling over to the dugout to your teammates. Hey, this is a 7-pitch at bat. We need to celebrate this when we get into the dugout. Okay. So here's the seventh pitch. That one's in the zone also. Let's see what happens. You fouled that one off. You fouled off the seventh pitch. The count's still 2-2. Eighth pitch in the strike zone. This one you swing and you miss. Okay. So you struck out. All right. Is this a quality at bat or a QAB? To me, this is a QAB. Why is it a QAB? Because you saw 8 pitches and your teammates saw 8 pitches. You made that pitcher throw 8 pitches. Whereas if you would have swung at the first ball and made contact and gotten out, he wouldn't have had to throw 7 additional pitches. Your teammates wouldn't have been able to see 7 additional pitches. Or if you would have swung at the first 3 pitches that were thrown, he wouldn't have had to throw 5 additional pitches. Your teammates would have seen those. Okay. So to me, this is a quality at bat, even though it resulted or ended in a strikeout. That happens. Okay. That's what baseball is. So a few things to remember with this. Every at bat counts. An AB stands for at bat. So every at bat counts. All right. After every at bat, try to learn something that can help you the next time you go to the plate. Okay. So try to think about, hey, where were those pitches? Should I have been swinging? Should I not have been swinging? If I'm missing the ball when I swing, is something going on with my timing? And these are all things that we'll be able to work on. Okay. The second thing, talk to your teammates and help them with their next at bat. I know it's upsetting if we swing and we strike out. We just want to go back to the dugout, and sometimes we're upset and we don't want to talk to anybody. We might be really, really frustrated with ourselves or a little embarrassed or whatever. It's baseball. You're going to strike out. Okay. What you do as a good teammate is you go tell your teammates, hey, those pitches were really good. Or, hey, I swung at a pitch outside. Watch that outside pitch. Don't swing at a pitch that's not in the strike zone. Okay. As you get older, if you keep playing and people start throwing like curveballs and more changeups and pitches that will move, they look like they're going one place, and then when you swing, they move to another place. As you get older, if you're doing that, you'll be able to tell your teammates, hey, watch for this, or watch, he's throwing a first ball fastball, or he's going to throw you inside, that type of thing. Okay. So talk to yourself to try to get to learn for the next time, and try to talk to your teammates to help them for their next time. Okay. The more pitches thrown will make a difference, especially late in games. Okay. Now, sometimes we'll play in situations where we might have a time limit and we have at exactly an hour, 15 minutes, the game's over and that's it. But this is a learning situation. Okay. I want you to learn about baseball, not necessarily worry about time limits and worry about if, we had runners on base but we ran out of time. What I'm concerned with, what our coaches are concerned with, is you learning how to play. So the more pitches you make the other team throw, that will make a difference, especially in late games. And I will give you an example. One season we were playing in a game, and we had a batter foul off 7 straight pitches. He fouled off 7 straight pitches. That pitcher had to throw at least 6 additional pitches to him that he fouled off, right? On the eighth pitch, he swung and he missed the ball. So he struck out. But that still was a quality at bat because he fouled off 7 pitches. It gave his teammates the opportunity to see those pitches. It made the other pitcher more tired because he was having to throw more pitches. 2 innings later, we have runner we walk a runner or we walk a batter because the pitcher is possibly getting a little more tired because he's had to throw so many pitches early in the game. So we get a runner on base. The next batter gets a hit, and then the next batter fouls off 2 or 3 pitches and then gets a hit to the outfield, and we end up being able to score 2 runs off of that. Okay, and that all happens because of those pitches we made the other team throw early in the game. So every pitch counts, every at bat counts, and the more pitches we make the other team throw, the better position we will be in, especially late in games. Now, on the flip side, on defense, we want to be as efficient as possible, right? We don't want to have to throw a lot of pitches. We want to be throwing strikes and getting people out, whether that's a strikeout or whether they're hitting and we're recording outs in the field, right? The last thing I'll tell you on this, on finding your pitch, don't help a struggling pitcher. If you have someone who is struggling to find the strike zone, don't swing at balls that aren't in the strike zone. Okay. That doesn't mean that you can, this could be the pitcher could be your friend. You could play with them after the game. You could talk to them after the game and it doesn't change any of that. If a pitcher is struggling, don't help them out. Okay. Don't swing at a ball. Don't swing at a pitch that should be a ball. Because then what you might find is that might actually kind of get them back on track and they might start throwing strikes again and you might end up striking out. Okay. Or you might end up making contact and not getting on base. Whereas if you would have let the pitches go that were balls, maybe you'd have walked and you'd have gotten on base. Okay. So the next thing let's talk about is getting on base. What are some ways that we can get on base? Here are 4 common ways that we can get on base. One, we can get on base through a hit. Okay, we make contact and we reach first base or second base or third base by a hit. All right. We can get on base through a walk. We're thrown 4 balls, and so we get to walk down to first base. We can get on base through an error. We hit to a fielder, and the fielder, when trying to field the ball, they mess up, they make a mistake, and it counts as an error, but we get on base. And we can also get on base if we get hit by the pitch, right? If they throw the pitch and it hits us, we're on base for that as well. The more runners on base we have means that's the more chances we have to score, right? And that's really, really good for us. We want to be able to do that. Okay. So let's go over a few situations with hitting the ball and getting to first. Okay. So let's go ahead and start. Here you are over in the on deck circle. It's your turn to bat. So you walk up. You don't get into the batter's box. Remember, you stop on the dirt and you look to your coach for your sign. Once you get your sign, then you step into the batter's box. All right. So here we go. Here's the pitch. The pitch is thrown and you hit it to shortstop. All right. Question. You hit it to shortstop. You have to run as fast as you can to first base, right? Do you run to first base and stop right on first base? No. You don't want to run and stop right on top of first base because that means you're slowing down before you get to first base. Here's what you want to do. You hit that ball, you want to run through first base and then curve toward the fence by the dugouts. Because if you're running through first base, that means you are running fast and you're not slowing down. Okay? You run, you touch first base, you try to touch it with your left foot. You try to time it where you can touch it with your left foot, and then you veer off toward the fences. You see where you have finished on this graphic. The reason you do that is if you run toward the fence of the dugouts, you're okay. You're in foul territory. The play is over. If you actually turned and you went inside the baselines towards second base, then you're a live runner. They could get the ball, they could tag you, and you would be out. Okay? So here's when to round first base. All right. So you're up, the pitch is thrown, you hit the ball, to the infield. So you hit the ball to the infield, you want to run through first and make your turn toward the dugout, right? And then you can walk back to the base. Now let's say you hit the ball to the outfield. What do you want to do? You run and you make a turn towards second when the ball's hit toward the outfield. Now, see, you make a little bit of a turn towards, before you get to first, you make a little banana turn. The reason you do that is if you make a banana turn, then you are in a position where you're angled at second base when you touch first base. So you can run straight to second base. If you run straight to first base and then decide to turn and run to second base, usually what happens is you end up running way around in the infield and you take a lot more time to get to the base where you want to go. Okay? So here's when to run to second. You're at bat. Here's the pitch. And let's say the ball goes out to the outfield. Okay? You run to second when the ball gets past an outfielder or the outfielder is taking a lot of time to get to the ball. Okay? So you run, you make your turn at first, and you go to second base. Now, you have to stop on second base and third base. You cannot run through second base and third base. You have to stop on the base, either by sliding or stopping by standing up. Okay? Here's another situation. You hit a ball and it goes way out into the outfield because people are missing it, or it's just you've hit it out that far. So here's what you want to do. When running the bases, listen to your coaches and try to watch your coaches. Try to see what they're telling you to do, because if you hit a ball really far, they might be saying, go to second. And then you get to second and they might say, go to third. And when you're close to third, they might say, go home. And you get to run all the way home. Okay. So you have to listen to your coaches. And if you have an opportunity, especially with your third base coach, when you turn and you touch second base and you start running toward third, you want to be looking at your third base coach because they're going to be telling you what to do. Okay. Don't look at the ball, look at your coaches and listen to what your coaches are telling you. We're going to try to help you get to a base safely. Okay. All right. Last section we're going to talk about is running the bases. So this is when you start on a base. What are we going to do running the bases? How are we going to work that? So first, let's go over a force out. What is a force out? A force out is a play where the runner is forced to run. Okay. What are some examples of that? An example would be a runner going from home to first. So you hit the ball, you're running to first. That's a force out because they can catch the ball and touch the base, and that's it. They don't have to touch you. Okay. Anytime that they can just touch the base instead of having to tag you, that's a force out. Okay. So one example is a runner going from home to first, a runner going from first to second, because if you're on first base and the ball's hit, you have to run to second base because somebody's coming to occupy first base, right? So you would be the force runner. You would be a force out at second base. So we have to get there really, really quick. Another way, if all bases behind you have teammates on them, then you are a force out. So if you're on second base and there's a runner on first, you're a force out at third. If you are on third base and there's a runner on second and also a runner on first, you're a force out at home. Okay. So when we're force outs, we have to run really, really fast. We have to be prepared for that. Okay. Here's the situation, how to run the bases. So you see there are two coaches on the field. The B stands for the batter at the plate, and then you see the R over on first base. So here's a few situations. If the ball is pitched and hit to the infield, it's hit to second base, you are the force out. So you have to get to second base really fast, right? Because if it's hit to second base is going to try to run, the second baseman is going to try to run over and tag second base before you get there. So you have to be really fast because are the force out. So you have to get there really fast. Okay. Now, let's say you're back on first. The pitch is thrown. The ball's hit to the outfield. It's a fly ball. If a fly ball is hit, stay on your base until the ball either hits the ground or your coaches tell you to run. Because if it's caught, if the right fielder catches the ball and you're off your base, then they could throw back to first base and get you out. So if there's a fly ball, stay on your base. Stay on your base until you see it hit the ground or until your coaches say, run, 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 which we'll do from time to time. Okay. So let's say the right fielder catches it, stay on the base. We get one out, but you're safe on first base. Okay. The right fielder misses it. It has hit the ground, or we as coaches know it's about to hit the ground. We might say, run, run, run. Then you sprint to second base. Okay. So that's one of the hardest things to remember. When a fly ball is hit, make sure the ball hits the ground before you take off running. Okay. And there are some different things that we can do with base running, but for now, let's just stay on the base and we'll talk about some of those other things later. Okay. Here's another situation. How to run the bases. You see you are on second base. There's no one on first base. So at this point, are you a force out or are you not a force out? There's no one on first base behind you, so you're not a force out, right? Okay, so if you are not a force out, you do not have to run, okay? Listen to your coaches in this situation because here's the situation. The pitch is thrown. A ground ball is hit to third base. When it's hit there, you don't want to run because you could be out. The third baseman could field it. They could tag you as you're running to third base and you would be out. Whereas if you didn't run and you stayed on second base, then you're safe at second, okay? An example from a game that we were playing in where we did a really, really good job. We had a runner on third base and a runner on second base, and we really needed to score those two runs. Well, there was no runner on first base. So what happens? The batter, we had one out. The batter hits the ball back to the pitcher. The pitcher starts looking over at third base. Our runner on third base stays on third base. Our runner on second base stays on second base. Everybody's making really, really good decisions. No one's trying to run when they shouldn't have been running. Because if our third base runner would have tried to run home, the pitcher could have gotten the ball and tagged them for an out, right? But our third base runner stayed in the position. They stayed on third base. Our second base runner stayed at second. The pitcher got the ball and he was making sure the third base runner wasn't trying to run. So he didn't throw over to first. So we ended up with a runner on first, second, and third because we made really, really, really good decisions on the base path when we were at second base and third base. So make sure you're listening to your coaches. If you are not a force out, you don't have to run. Okay? Now, here's another situation. How to run the bases. If the ball gets past the fielder, then you can run and listen to your coaches. So remember, you still are not a force out, so you don't have to run. But let's say the ball's pitched, hit, and it gets past the shortstop. It goes into the outfield. If that happens, then you can run and listen to your coaches because your coaches might be telling you to round third and go home, and we might get a score out of that. Okay, so here's some things that hopefully will help with running the bases, with finding your pitch, with getting prepared for an at-bat, okay? And remember, don't worry if you forget some of these things. You can watch these videos over and over again. We will talk to you about it over and over again. And as I said at the beginning, as I said with the defensive videos, if you like these and you want to ask questions, ask questions. If you want to try to stump us, try to stump us. I love being stumped and being able to talk through different situations. If you're watching these videos and it's a little too much for you, it might be a little too, make you a little nervous trying to keep up with all this stuff. Stop watching. We'll be able to talk about it. Okay. This is all to help you learn. This is all to help you have fun. These are the things that I really, really like about the game of baseball. Okay. It's Coach Cody. Thanks a lot.